Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade, and I'm joined by Paul Rust from Netflix's Love. Make sure to go stream it, binge watch it right now on Netflix. Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade. Paul Rust, just telling you a great story. I'm at a wedding in Philadelphia, and my old roommate and his girlfriend go, "Who are you talking to this week?" And your name gets mentioned. And they say that's the first show that they watched as a couple. You're the couple maker.
Bringing couples together.
Bringing couples together.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
That's good.
Season 2, you've already been greenlit for season 3.
Yes.
Things are going well with Love, aren't they?
Yeah. It's been really fun. I mean, like, we're just on this cycle now where we start shooting 2 days after season 2 comes out. So it's exciting. The train is moving. Yeah.
This show is unlike anything out there. I was actually thinking while watching this, you would never see this show on broadcast television because it is so quirky and so different. When did Netflix give you the go-ahead? Like, when did they decide this is a Netflix product?
Yeah, well, we had actually written the script and presented it to them, so it wasn't a thing where we went in and pitched and then formed it and figured it out then. It was all sort of fully given to them, and they liked it, and I think it probably helped that Judd Apatow's name was attached. I think that was a nice little deal maker. But yeah, I agree. It's something that you couldn't do on necessarily broadcast TV, primarily because we take our time, and with the couple getting together, I think if it was a network show, by episode 2, they would be getting
Making
married.
babies.
Yeah,
They'd
exactly.
be like making babies already.
Yeah, totally.
Gillian's one of my favorite people. I've interviewed her a million times. What makes her, as a comedic partner, so successful in working with you?
Oh, well, first and foremost, she's just a tremendous actor, and then second and foremost, she's a tremendous person. So I think what you see when she acts and performs, there's a humanity there that I think people recognize because she is in touch with people, and when she's on the set, she's the kindest and warmest person to everybody, and so I think that really shines through. Even when she's playing somebody who's slightly damaged.
Slightly.
Yeah, she makes it very lovable. Yeah.
You'd mentioned Judd at the top of this interview. I mean, you think about, he's probably the foremost comedic mind right now. Shows like yours, Lena's with girls. Talk to me about working with Judd. What's that process like?
Oh, it's great. I mean, Judd, what's awesome about Judd is he started off as a writer and a stand-up comedian. So when you're working with him and you're getting notes from him, it's from somebody who is a fellow writer and a fellow comedian. So you're not getting these notes that are sort of like, can we make this person more? His thing is just trying to make the most interesting, funny show. So that's what I appreciate the most, is getting to work with somebody who puts the writing first and foremost.
You created this, you star in it. When did this concept come into your mind? When did you decide that this quirky romance was something you wanted to put on paper?
Well, my wife, Leslie Arfin, and I, we co-created the show with Judd Apatow. And originally we had it in mind as a movie, and we pitched it to Judd. And Judd was like, I don't think this is a movie, but I love the characters. And Judd had this idea for a while of doing a TV show about one relationship, and you see it from beginning to end. And he was like, I have this idea. Maybe we could take your characters and marry it with this. And so that's how it came to be.
Talk to me about this relationship between the two of them, because you have, on one hand, with Gillian's character, she's a bit of a train wreck. On your end, I was reading an article and it said, quote unquote, fake nice.
Yes.
Even though he is nice, he's
Yeah.
so nice. Why do these two get each other? Why does it work?
Yeah, I think for them, it's they see in the other person somebody they would like to potentially become, So I think with Gus, it's like, oh, she's wild. I'm a little pent up. It'd be nice to be wild like her. And then for her, she's like, oh, he's stable, but not really. They're both disasters.
Working with Netflix, there's probably no other platform, television, streaming, anywhere, putting out the level of content that Netflix is.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you to be a part of this family right now and what they're doing?
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I first started working with Netflix because I wrote on the 4th season of Arrested Development, which was, I think, their very, very first original programming that they did. And I remember at that time, everybody in the writer's room just felt like they were really part of something special, and that no matter what happened, when they write the history books about when things went from broadcast to streaming will be at least a footnote, of like, oh, this was the first show that was on Netflix. So that's really cool. It's nice just to be a part of I'm a sort of nerd about TV and movies and stuff.
I am too. I watch everything, man.
Yeah,
so
to get to be a part of something that when something's changing is really exciting.
You have so many great guest stars that come on, from David Spade to Randall Park. How are you getting these people?
Judd, is it like
literally, David, it's Judd, need you on the show? Like, how does it all work?
That's how it works. We'll be in the room and we'll be like, I think David Spade would be pretty funny for this. And then Judd will go off and make a phone call. And then we got David Spade. And same with Randall Park. And we have Daniel Stern on the show this season. And Judd and Daniel Stern are old friends. They worked on this movie Celtic Pride, which I don't know.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Judd wrote that. And that was like the first movie that was made that Judd wrote. And so, I think everybody's really excited to get to work with Judd. But also they see the show and they know that actors' performances are kind of put first and foremost on the show, so they get treated right. So I think people know that and they want to join up.
Who are your dream guests for the show? Who would you love to see guest star on it?
Man, I was talking about it with somebody yesterday. Rick Moranis went into semi-retirement.
There was just a big article on this, by the way. He doesn't want to go work
I know,
again.
And I was like, man,
nice.
That would be a nice comedy get if you were able to finally get Rick Moranis back out doing comedy, because I think he's brilliant. So it'd be cool to have him on the show. That would be a big get.
You also have some great directors that get behind the camera. I was reading the director list from John Slattery to. I was like, holy cow! I never knew any of these guys were even getting behind the camera.
Yeah.
How's that happen?
Yeah, like John Slattery and Steve Buscemi and Joe Swanberg. We had a lot of
Michael Showalter.
Yeah. Who's directing the first 2 episodes for season 3? So I'll be working with Michael soon. It works out nicely that they are actors who are directors, because I feel like when we're on set, they definitely come at it from a perspective of a fellow actor. So you're getting Steve Buscemi. I remember he would come over and he was very, even though his performances can be wild and crazy, he'll come over and he talks very softly and gives you notes.
He's the most mellow dude in real life.
Yeah, which is awesome. And having a mellow director means you have a mellow set and people work best. I've noticed people work best when they just feel comfortable and confident. So those directors are really good at that.
Does it blow your mind? I deal with this as being on this end of the camera, where you'll have one perception of who somebody is, but then you meet them in real life and they're the complete opposite. Does it blow your mind when that happens?
Yeah, it's interesting. I worked with the big version of that was I co-wrote this Pee Wee Herman movie with Paul Rubens, and he's a very sweet, soft-spoken man. He's not it's not like he's Pee Wee and he's running around the house or anything. But it's fun as a fan. It's fun to get to meet people and get to know them as people.
At the end of season 1, we see the two of you reconcile. Where are we going to see you guys go in season 2?
The idea is that the two of them, they're both aware that maybe this isn't the best time to be getting into a relationship, or maybe they're not at the best points in their life and to make it work, but they feel this attraction, and so they go for it despite the red flags. And lately we've been saying they see the red flags, but it's like the matador and the bull. The bull comes charging at the red flag.
When you find out you're going to get season 3, as a writer, I'm always curious, because I think what you guys do from a writing perspective is so dynamic. I'll listen to, I'll watch the Hollywood Reporter do writers roundtables, and you'll see people who wrote Game of Thrones say, I already have 7 seasons thought out. How far ahead are you going in terms of plotting out the storylines for these characters and for the show?
We basically take it season by season, and even within the seasons, a lot of times we'll leave the last 2 episodes sort of up in the air, because we like the idea that if we find something as we're shooting, we can write to it. And Judd, he was telling me, he was like, this is the first time I've ever embarked on something without knowing the ending. He's like, usually I have the ending and then I'm working towards that. And I think that's what's been fun about working on the show is embracing sort of it being organic. I think it's a lot like a relationship where it'd be crazy if on the first date you're like, so when are we going to get married? So we treat the show the same way, which is we're just sort of letting the characters get to know each other, and then this sounds artsy fartsy, but it's sort of like it's telling us like where it should go, which is really exciting as a creator.
Does that create a lot of improv on set, or do you guys stay mostly on book?
Yeah, it's tough because we do hire all these great comedic actors who are amazing improvisers, and a lot of times they'll say a line that's like, "Oh, that's better than anything we could have spent 10 years in a writer's room," and they just came up with this awesome line. So, but it is a balance because it is TV production hours, so we get like 6 days per episode, so you can't spend too much time improvising. But we usually try to last take or two, have a fun one, and then that's when usually the gold comes out. Yeah.
We're living in a different age right now where the political climate has changed the way comedians look at everything. Does it change the way you as a comedian approach comedy?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think we're sort of, I don't know if helped is the right word, but the show is so much about people and the personal lives of somebody. So we rarely get into the political, because I think about like we work on the same lot as the Veep people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now they have this huge thing that they have to like
run 8 more seasons of this election.
Yeah, exactly. So that rarely touches us, but certainly we have conversations in the writers' room, and I have to imagine it somehow seeps in. But yeah, it's not on the forefront of our minds.
So you haven't figured out the ending in your head? Like, do they get married? Do they have 4 kids? You haven't thought about this at all?
I mean, it's tough because it's basically, it can only be 2 things. It's either they stay together or they don't. So like, it's that's the tough part, is like knowing that those are your options. I think what's nice about it is that to bring it back to us, it originally going to be a movie. It's nice that with a TV show you can kind of maybe have more nuances to it. With a movie, you would have to be like, okay, it's 80 minutes. We only have 20 more minutes to decide what's going to happen here. So having that sort of freedom is nice.
What do you think about comedy in general right now? I personally feel like we're seeing another golden age right now, kind of like we're returning to where we were with the Eddie Murphys and the Richard Pryors. We're seeing with the Amy Schumers and so many geniuses out there. What do you think about what's going on?
Well, I went to the Comedy Cellar last night, and I saw Amy Schumer do a set, and it was awesome. It was so... What I love about going and seeing a great stand-up like Amy is seeing somebody just talk as they would if they weren't on stage. Like, that's, I feel like, when you're in the zone, is when you can just be yourself on stage and people enjoy watching it. Right now, I'm a huge comedy fan. I grew up loving comedy, so I love it because... when I moved to LA over a decade ago, there was just no comedy writing jobs. It was like Everybody Loves Raymond. That was about it. And then The Office came out, and then something happened where now that there's 1,000 comedy writing jobs you could have in LA, and I love it because the more comedy, the better. And I like high stuff, I like low stuff, I like broad stuff, I like small stuff. So the more the better.
When do you know something's funny as a comic writer?
It's tough. A lot of times it's like just a feeling you have of like, oh, if I saw this, would I think it's funny? It's very rare that like, maybe there's too much self-loathing on my end, but I've never had the experience of where I'm right. I'm like, ha, this is so funny, But yeah, I mean, definitely when you're on set, you can tell if something's working or not. And if it's not, then it's great. You can just cool off and sort of have a new conversation about like, oh, what do we have to do to make this work? And we usually figure it out.
I'm a person who I think subconsciously is afraid of success. So when you get told you're going to be like, okay, we got season 2, but now we're going to get season 3. Yeah. Are you scared or excited?
Oh, well, it's funny because, I remember being so nervous and wanting season 1 to get it right. And I was like, if we get it right, then I'll finally relax. And then season 1 came out and people liked it. And then I was like, oh no, season 2 has to be even better now. Like it never ends. It's just, you can always, find a way. But it's tough because what do you do? That's also might be the voice to push yourself to do better. So it's a tough thing to figure out.
Congrats, man. I think you got one of the coolest and most original shows out there. So congratulations.